So how do you build a country completely from scratch? And I don't just mean with bricks and mortar. I mean with ideas, with fear, and with absolute total control. Today we're going to look at the blueprint for one of the most enduring and, yeah, most isolated states of the 20th century. We're going to do it through the eyes of its chief designer, Kim Il-sung. Let's dive into the mind of the totalitarian architect.
Okay, so it all starts with a statement like this one. On the surface, it sounds pretty humble, almost democratic, right? Like a leader who's completely devoted to his citizens. But as you're about to see, this one little sentence is the absolute key to unlocking the entire architecture of North Korea.
And that's really the big question we're digging into here. Was this a genuine promise to serve the people, or was it a brilliantly crafted tool to justify absolute, unquestionable power? To figure that out, we have to go right back to the very foundations of the state he was building.
So where does a project this massive even begin? Well, any grand structure, it starts with a blueprint. For Kim Il-sung, the design wasn't for a building, obviously. It was for an entire society, a nation where every single piece, every person, served one central purpose, all guided by a single vision.
The vision that was sold to the people, it was basically a utopia. A nation completely independent from the rest of the world, super strong, prosperous, all thanks to the singular, benevolent guidance of its leader. You can see why that's a powerful and pretty alluring idea.
Now, what's really fascinating here is just how methodical this whole construction was. Look at the steps. First, you get rid of all political competition. Just merge them into one party. Bam! Then, you grab control of the entire economy by nationalizing all industry. And finally, you give the whole thing its ideological spine. Juche, this idea of absolute self-reliance. Every single step is about pulling all the power into the center.
But, once you've got a blueprint, you have to protect it. You have to make sure no one's going to come along and knock down your creation. So this next phase, it was all about securing that foundation by getting rid of any potential threats from the inside out.
And this really gets to the heart of the mindset, doesn't it? Before you can build the new, you got to bulldoze the old. And in this case, the old meant systematically clearing away any person, or even any idea, that didn't perfectly fit the new design.
And let me tell you, the list of so-called threats was long. We're not just talking about armed rebels here. We're talking about anyone with an independent thought. Political rivals from other factions, sure, but also intellectuals who might question the ideology, and even loyal party members who were just perceived as a possible future threat. This wasn't chaos. This was a very, very calculated purge.
But, and this is a huge but, this is where our whole architectural metaphor reveals a really tragic truth. What happens when the blueprint itself has a fundamental, catastrophic flaw? A flaw that wasn't just a crack in the wall, but something that would rot the very foundations of the society.
So the promise of Juche was prosperity for everybody. But the reality of having the state in total control of all the farms and all the industry, it was an absolute disaster. The rigid central planning, the forced collectivization, it just crushed productivity. The state that was designed for perfect self-reliance couldn't even feed its own people. This was the very root of the devastating famines that would follow.
And that's the key takeaway here. The famine wasn't an accident. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a direct consequence of the design. The very system that was built to provide for the people ended up starving them. The blueprint itself was the problem.
Okay, so what do you do when the physical reality of your state is failing? When the economy is completely broken and people are literally starving? Well, you build a different kind of structure. You build an ideological facade, one so powerful and so all-encompassing that it actually hides the truth.
And this is the final and maybe the most important piece of the whole architecture, the personality cult. This is the process of transforming a political leader from, a man into a myth. Kim Il-sung wasn't just a president to be obeyed. He was meant to be revered, worshipped, like a flawless, godlike savior.
And that brings us all the way back to this quote. Remember this from the beginning? It sounded like a promise of service. But now, after seeing the total control, the purges, the state failure, it's time to look at what this quote was really designed to do.
And here it is. This is the brilliant and frankly terrifying twist. He's not saying he serves the people as if they are his God. No, he's saying the collective will of the people has made him a God.
His power is their power. So if you question him, you're not just questioning a leader, you're betraying the people. If you oppose him, you're opposing yourselves. It's a complete, mind-bending inversion of logic.
So in the end, the man who designed the state completely fused himself with it. Kim Il-sung wasn't just the leader of North Korea anymore, he was North Korea. The line between the architect and his creation just completely disappeared. And this is the legacy of that blueprint. A structure designed to look perfect, held up by the idea that its creator is a god. And it leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question to think about. When the architect becomes a god, who on earth would dare to point out the cracks in the walls?